If you're at a company where you don't get any ownership, you're not building any asset for yourself. You're building somebody else's asset.
I just want everybody to know Aaron's coaching 100 plus clients currently, and 12 of which are making $1 million a year. So he is legit. And when I first came to coach with Aaron 4 years ago, the question that he asked me is Mark.
It's good. So my experience is that the people who produce the most favorable outcomes in life, they don't just like step in shit and some hats.
Well, I've heard you say, you're not going to get rich renting your time out. You must own equity. You're alluding to that. Help me understand more and why this is causing EXP to disrupt the industry.
It is, yeah. To go from 20,000 to almost 90,000 in 3 years is a massive disruption. And I do believe very firmly that within the next 10 years, 50% of all agents will be with cloud-based brokerages. There are many imitators, but nobody can duplicate. We're profitable at scale. So if people have a choice, it's like, well, do I want to go with like something that's unproven or something that's proven? I want to go with something that's proven. So this idea that like, if you're at a company where you don't get any ownership, you're not building any asset for yourself. You're building somebody else's asset. You're basically renting out your business. You're renting out your time. And the way that I've described this is it's like feudalism, which if you go back, 500 years ago where there was a landlord, that's where that name comes from, a lord of the land. And they owned the land and they hired peasants to work the land. The peasants worked the land, never owned anything, and all the money flowed back up top. Well, that's the traditional kind of brokerage model, which that there's a king or queen at the top. They go out and kind of sell a region, right, for millions of dollars. That regional owner goes out and sells individual franchises. That individual franchise owner then goes out and recruits agents. The agents do all the work. They never own anything, and the money flows back up to the top. I mean, that's what that is. With EXP, you actually have something to show for the time that you spent, and it compounds over time. So most people's issue is that they don't have anything in their life that compounds, meaning like as time progresses, it gets bigger. So as agents, if you're just on the transaction treadmill, basically what we've been told is like, okay, well, just sell real estate, and if you have some extra money, buy some real estate. Like that's the plan, which is like, okay, it's not a terrible plan. I did that. At the same time, it takes a long time and you need a bunch of money to do that. At the same time, if I could do that and also get equity in an S&P 600 company that has $140+ million in the bank that is debt free and their stock pays a dividend, because if I'd have been doing this over the last 15 years, I'd have over $1 million in equity when I left the company, and instead I left with nothing. So that's what I'm saying, that in order to get wealthy, if I just trade my time for money, I'm never going to get wealthy. I must own equity. I must own a piece.
Well, and what's interesting, Aaron, is I just want everybody to know Aaron's coaching 100 plus clients currently, and 12 of which are making $1 million a year. So he is legit. And when I first came to coach with Aaron 4 years ago, the question that he asked me is Mark, what's your I'm done number? Meaning, like, what would I need to be earning, not having to make the decision to come into the work every day? And what would that look like? And so, as agents, that's kind of like, it's almost like when you first presented that to me, it was like pie in the sky. I almost didn't believe it. And then you broke it down for me and you said, if you have X, this is how it could be real. And that was well before you even decided to go to EXP. So can you talk a little to like how that can affect an individual agent's opportunity to say, I'm done, I'm tapping out, and I'm going to do something else?
That's good. So my experience is that the people who produce the most favorable outcomes in life, they don't just like step in shit. They're very intentional. So it's not like they just like win the lottery. Right. Sure, does that happen? Yeah, but the probability of that happening is very small. True is that they're very intentional, right, from the beginning. And they begin with the end in mind. So when I talk to people about this idea of like, you're in a mastermind group that I run called the Freedom Builders. And it's in the name, like, financial freedom and independence, right? Because people say like, we're free in this country. I'm like, well, you're free to abide by the rules. Like the ultimate freedom is being able to do what you want, when you want, how you want, when you want, as often as you want, for as long as you want. You know what I mean? And in order to do that, you need resources. So if you start to look at that, you're like, okay, well, what are the vehicles that are available to me? Because if you take two people, one is very smart, hardworking, and ambitious. The other is also smart, hardworking, and ambitious. One chooses a vehicle that compounds and is very leveraged. The other one does not. They choose a vehicle that doesn't compound and is not leveraged. If you check back in with them in 20 years, the person who chose the vehicle that compounds and is leveraged will be 25 to 50 times ahead of the person who chose a vehicle that doesn't compound and is not leveraged. So I have to be like mindful of what I choose to stack my time on top of, because my time is my most valuable asset. And whatever I choose to stack it on top of, it needs to have a compounding component to it and be highly leveraged. So what I did for 17 years in my career was follow a particular strategy, which is not rocket science. Okay. Is that I poured into myself, invested a lot of money into my own personal growth and development so I could earn more money. As I earned more money, I kept my living expenses very low. I lived way within my means, right? And that left a lot of money left over. And what I would do is take 40 to 50% of all the money I was earning and dump it into assets that pay me money. You do that for 15, 17 years, like you will become financially free and independent. It's not rocket science. The issue is that it takes a while. And that's okay. You know, I'm 42 years old now. It's not like the end of the world. At the same time, I started to think to myself, like, okay, well, how much would the number be for me in order for me to like really not do things for money anymore if I don't want to? So I do them because I think they'll have a big impact. I do them because they bring me joy. I do them because it's like serving other people. It's interesting to me. It's fun to me, right? So I figured out what that was. And then I started to look around and I did some math and I said, okay, well, how long will I need to sell real estate for physically in the physical world to hit this number? And it was like 5 years. Okay. But as I started to look at this other vehicle, I'm like, wow, I think I can do that in like 2 years, 2.5 years. Because of the way that it compounds and because it's so leveraged, right? So once I realized that, I was like, oh, it makes a lot of sense for me to really go after this, like to go all in. And what's transpired is that, okay, so, what I'm about to share is not to brag or boast, but just to give everybody context. So I spent 17 years of my career selling over 2,000 properties to be able to invest a couple $1 million in commercial grade institutional real estate that produces about, let's say, $8,500 to $9,000 a month in residual income. Well, what this vehicle has allowed me to do is to produce $10,000 to $15,000 a month in residual income in 16 months with almost no money because of the vehicle. So if you think about that, what it does is it compresses time, right? So that's really the power of it, like the magnitude of it, how big this opportunity is. Like I tell people, look, this is the greatest wealth building opportunity that me or you or anybody will ever have in their whole life.
All right. So and I've observed this over the last 15 months, it's real and it's exciting to see. And yet,